we are going fast this morning. Got a lot of moms that are that came on early and are ready to go. And I know Lindsay Bunting, who's my cohort kind of on this in this whole journey, is out at the river with her family getting their hours in, their outside hours in. They've been doing this on a fairly regular basis, right? You're there a few mornings out of the week. Look at that.
My other kids are like over there behind that tree somewhere making a dam or something.
I love it.
We've been coming out here quite a bit.
And Laura and her family are going to join you. That's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love seeing you guys getting out there. I'm at 48 hours now. So, I mean, for me with no kids as an excuse, to get out there, I feel pretty good about that. My goal is 500 hours. So I'm really not on track for that, except that when we hit summer, I'm outside a bunch. So hopefully I'll stay on track. So are any of you still doing that? Any of you jumping on? I know Deidre, right? Deidre, you said you and your kids are going to be able to get, and your family will be able to get out there a bunch now that your husband will be a park ranger and you'll be living in a state park. That is so cool. I'm so jealous in a very positive, nurturing, uplifting kind of a way. And I know, Lindsay Watkins, you're doing it. You and your kids are getting outside, right?
Yeah, we're at 42 hours. We're not a ton yet, but summer's coming, spring's coming.
Right. Well, and I have no excuse because the weather is so lovely. So, my accomplishment is nothing because how hard is it to go outside when it's pleasant? But for you guys that are going outside in the snow, you get major kudos. That's awesome. Really good. Okay, Amy, how about you? Are you getting some outside hours in? Lillian DeWeirdo.
Don't you love it when your children take over your phone? I'm having to stay in my car today because my husband is home, not having meetings, and anyway, everyone's like, in your space. So, we got outside. For me, it's been, I walk with ladies in the morning. With retired women in the morning. And so we walk. And so that's always good. And then with my kids, it's kind of been a hit and miss, but it's getting warmer. But then it's supposed to be cold again. With teenage kids, it's such a different, I wish my kids were little where I could just say, go outside. But with the teenagers, I get attitude, back talk.
What?
I get questions. Why do I have to go outside like right now? Like, why? So it's, the challenge is it's a challenge. So it's good though. It's good.
I think it would be hard with teenagers if they hadn't grown up doing that. I think you'll have to be probably prayerful about it and very creative if you're going to get them on board with you, but maybe some adventures, maybe if you went on some adventures or just invited them to bring some books or something and just hang out.
Yeah, I think it'll be good, but I think as it gets warmer, the motivation will be there. We're gardeners, so we like to be in the garden a lot. So yeah.
Okay, Lindsay Watkins, I think that's so awesome. Do you guys see her comment in the chat? Tell us about that a little bit.
We have this patio that since we moved in this house, I was like, I just need a table. I just want something to go outside and sit on and have dinners at. And so he's just out in we call it his she shed, which is not nice, but he's outside just building woodworking is his hobby. So, and it's been funny because the whole 1,000 hours outside, and I was like, there's just unsuitable clothing. There's no bad weather. And he's like, you know what? I think you're right. So he spent, oh heavens, I think he has 15 hours just during the snowstorm week. He just bundled up and spent 5 hours a day out there tearing down a shed because he's like, I just put on more clothes. And so he was out there just carrying it out. And otherwise he would have just avoided it and stayed in the house, but he's like, I can do it too. If you guys can do it, I can do it. So
I love that. And I'm hearing that, like, I remember watching, I went back and I was watching some YouTube videos, and Linnell. That was so impressive to me. Kind of her own telling of her before and after, you know, of just not going outside. It's cold, it's snowing, whatever. I don't go outside. And now it's completely different. And going outside is just part of her life. And I love that. I love that you guys are being brave and making these great and wonderful, but initially hard changes in your life. I think that's awesome. And I love that your husband's getting on board with the building and everything, and Lindsay Watkins. And I wondered, do you think that birthday weekend that you took with your friends maybe had a positive impact like that, you know, on you, on him, seeing the difference that it made, doing a different kind of an activity together and with friends?
Yeah, it did. And we actually had those friends over the other night for just dessert night. And they were like, okay, when we all go back to the farm and we should take a huge slip and slide and and they had like planned all these activities and we're like, oh, guess we better make another plan. So it's been fun just seeing how they have all changed as well. So.
I love that. And
Yeah.
Lindsay Bunting, you were talking about the impact that just you going out with your family has had on people around you.
Yeah, because I've just been posting it on Instagram. So now my sister-in-law and her family are trying to get out. And just, yeah, I've had random people, oh, my cousin-in-law, whatever, her kids, and then they live out in the desert and they've been going on hikes instead of just, yeah, staying home. So all these random family members are like, you know, you've really inspired us to do the same thing just from posting on Instagram. So
That's awesome. There's another family that I follow and they are 2 hours outside. Oh, sorry, Lindsay. I think I was talking over you. I'm sorry. There was a delay for me. But this 2 hours outside, she was suggesting just spend 10 minutes more outside today than you have before. And if you've spent 0, then you'll have 10 minutes, but just take a short walk around your block or just, you know, down the street and back, or go sit outside for 10 minutes, set a timer, you know, just get out there, start by doing something, and you'll kind of catch the bug, you know, you'll want to be out there more. You'll see that it's making a difference and you'll want to work a little harder to figure out new ways. But for those of you who don't know, Lindsay Watkins, for her birthday weekend, I think, is that what it was, Lindsay? They went with some friends for the weekend. And instead of everybody being inside, you know, maybe you could just kind of summarize that again, Lindsay, for those who didn't hear about that experience, because I think that was a really a big turning point kind of for you.
It was. We have my husband's grandparents' house in East Tennessee. We just kept it as a vacation home for all the families, and it's out on 8 acres and it has like a pond and everything. And so we just decided we would all go up there for the weekend, and the kids were all running around. There were 16 of us total. So nobody wants to be crammed into a house when there's that many people. So, I mean, we took sidewalk chalk. We had all of our meals outside. We just set up tables, and it was in September, so it wasn't warm enough to swim or anything, even though some of the kids did jump in the pond, which there's turtles in there, so no thanks. But we did fishing and we did kayaking, and I mean, it got to the point where we were just being funny. And I mean, one of the boats didn't have an oar, so we were using a shovel, and it was a lot of fun. And the little kids, I don't know if you guys know those, the little kid bikes, the big wheels.
Yes.
Really big front tires. Well, there's a hill and then you go down to the pond. Well, the adults, we were riding them down the hills. And because we're adults, my friend Sarah couldn't stop and she went right off into the pond. And we laughed so hard that weekend. And we didn't turn the electronics on. We didn't just sit around. We all sat out around the fire pit, and it was just such a good weekend and such a good way just for all of us to reset. And that really was a kicking off point for us, because I'm a homebody. My kids are homebodies. So for us to go out, we like to explore, but again, we had our limits of a few hours here, a few hours there. But it is amazing to see how one person, you know, how Jenny just put this out there, and now look what it's done. I mean, the groups are huge, and the influence that even the ones that aren't in the group, they're they're talking about it and they're all trying to get out there. And like I said, it's changed me. It's also changed my kids, but now my husband, like I said, he's a Phoenix boy. So 18 degrees and tearing down a shed is not his cup of tea, but it has been interesting to see just what a mother's influence can do, not just for her family, but I mean, look at all of us. We're all out here doing it. Kids or no kids.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that, because that's such a good story. I love that. And Amy, maybe that gives you some ideas for your family, something that's kind of a catalyst, for this change in your family and getting outside.
I was just thinking about that. As I've gotten older, and I don't know if some of you feel this, but as it kind of goes along with the imagination and the outside and stuff. But as I've gotten older, it almost seems like you have to be serious in a sense, you know what I mean? And to do childlike things, like what Lindsay was saying, getting on the bikes and jumping and just being in tune with yourself and your kids and connecting, that, that's really what it is. But because really, I feel like I need to have my house a certain way, or we can't do that because I'm too old, or I'm, like you put self limits on yourself, and I think just by going outside and doing and being, like Lindsay's party sounds wonderful. I have to think about a half birthday because my birthday is at the end of November. That it's like, yeah, you can go out and be a kid in a sense and still have that inner child, have the imagination, just go and do and have fun and just be. And I think I know for myself, I forget that because I do get caught up in the, well, we got to do this. No, but I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be doing this, like the shouldn'ts in a sense. And so it's just such a great reminder, especially Lindsay's party was, you were talking, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what it's about. Living.
Yeah, without those limitations. That's interesting that you say that. And I also love that as you moms are talking, you're just bringing in these principles that we're talking about today, because it's just natural. And as we start living this warmer, kind of nurturing way, we have these positive experiences, and they're very organic, very natural. And they just become a part of us. But I'd thrown out a question to a Marco Polo group that I have that is a family heart learning group. And it's with a couple sister-in-laws and then a couple of their daughters or daughter-in-laws. And I asked them, what are you doing right now that's warming your heart? I asked that question of a few different friends this week. And my cute niece, who's newly married, said, oh yeah, Lindsay, I'm so sorry. I hope we don't lose you. But my little niece said she's going back to ballet class. She used to take ballet, and the year before she was in point shoes, she stopped. I think I don't remember what was going on in her life, and I don't remember why she stopped. But as she talks about it now, she says, oh, I always wanted to be a ballerina. I always wanted to get into point shoes. And I just thought, okay, well, now I'm not going to, it's not going to happen. And she and a friend decided they were going to go back and they were going to take this class together. And she said, it's been so much fun. And she's setting a goal for herself, hopefully by the end of a year, to be in point shoes. And I think that's awesome. She's so young, but as she's married now and in her second half of her 20s, she's kind of decided, no, I can still do this. I can start over. I can, and it's funny to me because I'm 56 and I'm doing it. So I think she's got, years and years and years of time to do these things. She's so young. But for her to have that perspective and realize, wait a second, my dream's not dead. It hasn't died completely. I can bring it back to life and I can jump in and try this. And she said, it made me realize how many limits we put on ourselves. So I was thinking about that. So it's interesting that you would mention that. So we need to be careful and not do that. And kind of this imagination, the theme for this month for Mothers University, maybe part of it is imagining what you could do and become, and not putting those limits on yourself you know, what do you think about that? You have some thoughts, Lindsay
Which
Watkins? Mhm.
okay, it's like
Sorry, I know, sorry.
there's 3 of us today. Um, as far as limits, I have a little story to share. Sorry, I'm gonna overshare with you, but a few Sundays ago, my kids were like, "Can we just pretend like we're at a restaurant and none of us know each other?" And we're like, "All right, whatever, we're game." And so we were sitting there eating dinner, and we got to make up whoever we wanted to be. I wasn't mom. I wasn't married. I mean, my 10-year-old was an 80-year-old lady who liked to teach knitting classes as a hobby. And my almost 8-year-old said he's a high jumper in the Olympics. And he's like, "No one can out jump me. I have world records and I got to live in New Zealand and I did roller derby." That's not a hobby I'm looking to do. But it was fun everybody just imagined something totally different. And it put us all on the same level. Like, we weren't the parents, they weren't kids. I mean, crying out loud, she was older than me in this scenario, but it was so much fun. And I don't think I laughed with my kids that hard in a very long time. And I'm sorry. It's hard because we do become the parents and we expect to just always do the adult things and to never really just get on their level or be with them in their little worlds, because their little worlds only stay that way for so long. I'm so sorry. It was the best dinner. My husband and I walked away that night and we said, that is probably the best date night we've ever had. And we weren't even married in that scenario. And it was fun. So I challenge you guys to do that, because it's funny to see what your kids come up with. Even if they're teenagers, Amy, make them do it. It's fun.
I was just thinking, I'm going to do that this Sunday, because as teenagers, they become a little disconnected, right? You know, the thing I'm hearing with my kids is like, "Ugh, mom, mom." And I'm like, if I hear that one more time, you know, you're camping outside, because I'm so tired of hearing it. And I love how the laughter, and I think the laughter is the foundation, right? It brings us together, because I think you're seeing them in a different light. Like, who would have thought your kid would be like the high jumper and stuff? So you're seeing them in a different way in their imaginations and what they kind of value in a sense. So I'm doing that on Sunday, and I will report back.
Okay, so Amy's doing it, Lindsay Bunting's doing it. That was so sweet, Lindsay Watkins. Thank you for sharing that. I love that example. That is a heartwarming example. Oh, Deidre's doing it too. All right. We're going to get everybody on board and see what happens. I love that. Linnell, were you going to share?
No, I wasn't. My husband was just talking to me. But since I have the mic, I do want to tell you all that I invited my sister and she's here. So I wanted to introduce you to my sister, and she's Cammie.
Oh, wonderful. I love it. Where is Cammie from? Where's she coming from?
Cammie, do you want to talk?
And you don't have to, Cammie, if you don't want to, but we are all friendly, I promise. And we're too far away to bite, so.
Hi, my house is kind of chaotic because today is no school, so there's a lot of noise. I'm in Utah.
Okay, wonderful. I'm so glad that you joined us. That's awesome. Awesome. So, Cammie, how many kids do you have?
4.
4 kids, ages? Sorry.
That's fine. My youngest is 4, my oldest is 10, and they're 2 years apart.
Okay, awesome. And don't worry, we all have to be sensitive about, well, not me so much, but sensitive about background noise. I don't have all the wonderful little ones running around. I miss it. And we have kids sticking their heads into the frame, and we're all good with that. So don't worry. And look at her. She's got this awesome background. I love it. Ida, welcome, my dear. Ida's getting closer and closer to having those girls come. You guys remember that they are adopting 3 girls from Bulgaria. Oh, yes, I got it right. Okay, welcome. We're having such a beautiful discussion today. So Lindsay Watkins and her children, her husband and her children, they had a family dinner the other night, and their kids wanted to do this. And they all pretended to be different people. So they imagined that they were somebody else and had this dinner party. And so her daughter was an 80-year-old woman who taught knitting. Her son was an Olympic high jumper. Is that what you said? Yeah. And you were a roller derby chick. I just think that's awesome. And I don't believe you that it's not a secret dream. So sorry, you've let that cat out of the bag. I think that's awesome. So now we've got like 4 moms who are doing that this next week. They're doing that imagination kind of a dinner, and I love it. I think we need to look for ways to be more fun. I'm not very fun, and I've really been trying to be more fun. I can be spontaneous, but I'm not super fun. So I try little things. Like I try to create a holiday or something to try to celebrate, some reason to celebrate. So like Pie Day. I love Pie Day. I always do Pie Day. So I don't know if any of you do that. So, on March 14th, right, 314, we make pies and eat pies. So we're having some cousins over and we're going to do Pie Day. I mean, that, like, seriously, I think I'm being super fun. So if that gives you an idea of how fun I am, Pie Day is, like maximum fun level. So I need some serious help. But we do have a giant slip and slide, and we do that in the summer. And with all the risk of seriously injuring myself, I do that. And it's just a giant billboard, the big vinyl billboards that they put up. It's one of those. My husband got one that it had been misprinted, and so we can go, all of us at one time, down the slip and slide. So I guess that's not bad. All right. So National Donut Day. Oh, very good. It's almost exciting as Christmas at our house. That's awesome. So in June. So that would be a fun thing to do, is just look at the calendar. As much as I kind of make fun of all the goofy holidays that, we've added to our lives, why not? It gives us excuses to do some fun things. And in your own family, you can create your own holidays, and you can do it monthly. The first Tuesday, could be Donut Day or whatever. Lindsay Watkins, were you going to share? Oh, I can't, if you kind of lean forward, I'm so sorry when I do that to you guys.
I didn't want to have to talk about it, but I was just typing it.
Oh. So talk.
Yeah, they did Chinese New Year, my kids did, and they made their own dragon costume, and they did that, and they cut out lanterns and hung them all over our house, and we had Chinese food, and it was fun, just something silly.
But that's so awesome. And that's the kind of imaginative play that is so incredibly important and is so much more effective than the traditional way of educating our children. And that's what it's hard to wrap our minds around. And again, we're not about homeschooling. We include that in our discussions because some of us are doing that. And that's one of the ways that we take what we're learning and we share with, those around us. But no matter how our kids are being educated, what we can do is bring a little bit more of that imaginative play and a little more richness and a little more, in the time that we have them with us. So that kind of imaginative play is huge. So allowing them to do that, and sometimes allowing them to direct that play. Isn't that amazing to you? Like if you had decided, Lindsay, that you were going to do Chinese New Year with your kids and you assigned them these things, they probably wouldn't have done half the work that they did with them, creating it themselves, coming up with the idea and doing it themselves. Is that true for your family? I know it's true for a lot of families.
Yeah, I agree. I think my daughter is a party planner at heart. So sometimes, she has notebooks of just stuff. So sometimes we're just like, okay, plan the party. And because we just have a group of friends that we do a lot of things with. So they know that Anna's a party planner. And so we're like, hey, Anna planned this party, come over. And they're like, okay. And they all just show up and whatever she has is what we do. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Find out kind of what their natural talents are and then let them shine. Let them have a chance to do that. That's fabulous. Okay. Any other mamas want to share on this topic? We kind of just were reviewing what we've been doing about getting outside, what we've been doing about, just interacting with our families, being more present, this idea of being caught up in being too adult and responsible and serious. I think that bears looking into. I think that inviting imagination back into our own lives and hearts is really vital, really vital, especially when you've got all kinds of serious stuff going on out in the world around you. I think you need something to kind of help you lighten up a little bit and help your kids to feel that. So, and imagination can get you through really difficult times as well. I've been sharing a little bit about Opal Whiteling again, and there is something about that little girl that just touches my heart. For those of you who don't know, her story is at the Well Educated Heart, and you can read about her in Marlene's books. I was trying to remember. There's a podcast about Opal Whiteling that you can access, and I'm gonna see. I think that I marked it. I did, and it's in this month, and it's podcast number 106. So if you look on any podcast platform, anywhere you listen to podcasts, it's there. It's also at Well Educated Heart. But I was going to share with you just a little bit about her. And then, good. Morgan. Okay, Morgan T. Can you remind me, is that your first name? Sometimes we have our husband's names on and everything, and I just don't remember. Your first name. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so Opal Stanley Whiteling. Opal was thought to have been born a French princess. Did you know that part? I didn't share that part originally, but some of you know that from Marlene. She's thought to have been born a French princess, but was raised in poverty as her adopted family moved from lumber camp to lumber camp in Oregon. And that says, she said that when talking to the publisher later in her life, she said that she thinks from her rememberings, they moved about 19 times. That's a lot. So let me just share this a little bit and think about the methods that her parents used to teach her, and the long lasting influence and impression they made on her, even though she was so tiny. She was 6 years old. I can't get my glasses off my ear today. She was 6 years old when she was adopted into this other family. So her mom didn't have very much time with her. And this is it's going to have a great effect and impression and influence on a child. But our influence on anybody that's around us is huge if we're really striving to make a meaningful connection with that person. But listen to her little story. Of the days before I was taken to the lumber camps, there is little I remember. As piece by piece the journal comes together, some things come back. There are references here and there in the journal to things I saw or heard or learned in those days before I came to the lumber camps. There were walks in the fields and woods. When on these walks, Mother would tell me to listen to what the flowers and trees and birds were saying. We listened together. And on the way, she told me poems and other lovely things, some of which she wrote in the 2 books and also in others which I had not with me in the lumber camps. On the walks and after we came back, she had me to print what I had seen and what I had heard. After that, she told me of different people and their wonderful work on earth. Then she would have me tell again to her what she had told me. We're talking narration there. After I came to the lumber camp, I told these things to the trees and the brooks and the flowers. She talked about her mom using these 5 words that she said over and over again. Then when she had her print, the things that she had seen and heard, the words were what, where, when, how, and why. They had a very great influence over all my observations and the recording of those observations during all the days of my childhood. And my mother, having put such strong emphasis on these 5 words, accounts for much of the detailed descriptions that are throughout my diary. Now, she knew no children, and she just had the mother when she was tiny, just her mother and the kind woman who taught her and looked after her and dressed her, and the young girl who fed her. So, she did have some type of kind of privileged life when she was tiny. And there was Father in those few days when he was home from the far lands. Those were wonderful days, his homecoming days. Then he would take me on his knee and ride me on his shoulder and tell me of the animals and birds of the far lands. And we went for many walks, and he would talk to me about the things along the way. There was one day when I went with Mother in a boat. It was a little way on the sea. It was a happy day. Then something happened, and we were all in the water. Afterward, when I called for Mother, they said the sea waves had taken her and she was gone to heaven. I remember the day because I never saw my mother again. The time was not long after that day with Mother in the boat, when one day the kind woman who taught me and took care of me did tell me gently that Father too had gone to heaven while he was away in the far lands. She said she was going to take me to my grandmother and grandfather. We started, but I never got to see my dear grandmother and grandfather. Something happened on the way and I was all alone. Now she was 6 when this happened. And so her recollections are a 6-year-old girl trying to recall what happened, and so as you listen to this, think about that, because that's so tender to me that this is just a little child's rememberings. So she said, I didn't feel happy. So she couldn't really describe a lot of the situation, but she knew she didn't feel happy. There were strange people that I'd never seen before. I was afraid of them. They made me to keep very still, and we went for no walks in the field, but we traveled a long, long way. Then it was they that put me with Mrs. Whiteling. They took her on a train, and she went to then on a stagecoach to the lumber camp. She called me Opal Whiteley, the same name as that of another little girl that the woman had that died, which is kind of odd. But anyway, she kept with her this box that had 2 books that her mother had written that had all these stories and poems and different things and the writings of what her mother had seen and the experiences that she'd had. And kept them with her. And somehow the people didn't see that had like a second drawer in it or whatever. And they thought it just had childish little things. And so they didn't take it from her. And so she kept that with her. And then she kept a journal on any scrap of paper that she could find. She would write, and she would write about her life and the things that were happening in her life. And then one day her stepsister got angry with her and went and found her. She'd somehow found her hiding place because she'd kept this box hidden and her journal hidden, and the stepsister tore her journal into a bunch of little pieces, and it just broke Opal's heart, because this was her, her journal was kind of her friend and her connection to her parents and to the friendly world around her, which she didn't experience in this household. And so she kept those pieces of that journal. Well, she went one day to there's so much to her story, and it's just absolutely amazing. And I'm trying to summarize without leaving anything significant out, but not making it too long. But she went to this publisher because she had written a nature book. And I mean, this is after the mother she was staying with died. She wants to go to school. She is so poor and doesn't have very many options at all. She finally raised enough money by collecting berries and rinsing them off and selling them and other little, very hard jobs. She raised enough money to buy the book she needed for high school, and she completed the high school course. And then she wanted to go to college. She wanted it so badly. She lived in a tiny little 1-room apartment kind of thing on a slept on a $2 cot with 2 blankets as her coverings. And went to college. And then she continued this study of nature. She loved nature. And she wrote this book, and she wanted to get it published. And she worked really hard with this publishing company to get it published. And she earned $9,400 and was continuing to earn. They kept asking for more. And they're really taking advantage of this poor girl. And but she had come up with the $9,400, and they had been making the plates to get this book printed, but they demanded $600 more out of her. And when she was unable to get it, they smashed all the plates, and she had lost the money and lost the plates, and it was just this such a discouraging blow. Finally, she ends up going all the way across the country, because she'd been in California, and was meeting with a publisher in New York, telling him about this nature journal that she'd written and wanted to get published. And he said, I'm not really interested in the nature journal, but how do you remember all this? How do you must have kept a journal or a diary or something. She said, I did. And then her eyes teared up. And he said, what's the story there? And she told him about it being torn into pieces, and she didn't have that journal together anymore. And he thought, if it meant that much to her, she probably still has the pieces. And he asked her about it. And she said, I do. I have kept him in a little box, they're in California. And he said, let's send for those. And so he had those pieces sent. And then for 9 months, she worked piecing together all the pieces of that journal for him to be able to publish that. And that's something that you can access on the Well-Educated Heart. And I'm hoping that I can do this in a way. Okay, can you guys see that picture? Are you looking at the picture? Okay, so that is Opal Whiteling, and those are all the fragments of her diary as she is piecing these things together. And like I said, she would write on any piece of paper she could find. She had a sweet neighbor who would give her the wrappings, like from food, the food wrapper. And she would take that and clean it and iron it and cut it into kind of sheets that she could write on. She'd write on the back of envelopes, just anything she could find. And in some of the early writings, she wrote the letters so close together, there weren't spaces between words. She took up every inch of the paper and wrote those stories. I just think that's so incredible. That in itself is a moving story to me. And then when I read the pages of her little story, some of you might have seen, I posted on Facebook and I posted on Instagram one of her stories. Did any of you see that or get a chance to read that little excerpt about her and her dear friend? I'm not going to make you retell it or anything. I'm just curious. Like I said, I have fallen in love with this girl. I'm going to see. Okay.
I thought it was a beautiful story about the tree, and it made me think, like, I still kind of do that a little bit, I guess, but it was actually a beautiful story. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm trying, it's just very heartwarming to me. She's a person, I think I've said, when I die, she is somebody I want to look up, because I just, the way that she used her experiences in such a positive way, I don't understand. I have a hard time understanding that. It's just so beautiful. So I don't know how to move this little menu across the top. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure this out, guys. But here's her story. So if
you maximize your window in the top, it'll open it and then it'll get bigger.
Okay, and that's what
the box next to the X.
Yeah, there we go. I just need to pull it down. The little screen sharing menu across the top was covering the buttons. So I'm going to do it down here so I can, because I'm not as computer literate as you, Linnell, but thank you. Okay, so all right, so here's the story. So I'm going to take you here. Here is Libraries of Hope online. So this is Well-Educated Heart, the Libraries of Hope. And I don't know if you've listened to any of Marlene's recordings, but she calls it Libraries, plural, of Hope instead of Library of Hope, because she's encouraging all of us to develop our own libraries at home. And so across the earth, there will be all of these libraries of hope. And like with Linnell, she shared with us that she started out, having this kind of feeling like books were clutter. And now she's got bookcases and she's filling up those bookcases. So she is one of those libraries of hope. And I love that. So from this menu, we go through and we can access this, the Mother's University. So here's month 7 in Mother's University, and it's all about imagination. And I would say for our group, it's discovering ways to stir the imagination of our hearts, our own imaginations. And it's got beautiful quotes and beautiful pictures and wonderful videos that are so interesting and good to watch. Wonderful articles about why imagination matters so much and the importance of it. And C.S. Lewis and 10 Reasons Why Kids Need to Read Non-Disney Fairy Tales. And it's got this huge collection of books of fairy tales if you wanted those to read. Ideas about tools to use if you have children at home, things you can teach them to do. I love it. Just so many resources. Over here, these articles, they are so good. This decline in play in preschoolers and the rise in sensory issues, fascinating. Short read. This one also, the decline in play and the rise in children's mental disorders. Fascinating. We've changed the way we work with our kids, and we're not letting them have that imaginative playtime. We're pushing the academics so much that they're seeing these connections in these studies. So it's super interesting. So you mamas have this opportunity, no matter how your kids are being educated, to play and to encourage imagination and all of these wonderful things. Talks about Finland and why they have the best schools in the world, why they need all these other things. Anyway, it's just lovely. But you can access Opal and her book here. So here's the story of Opal, the Journal of an Understanding Heart is what it's subtitled. And then here's her nature book, The Fairyland Around Us. So you have access to those things. Anyway, here's the story of Opal. Here in the book, near the beginning, are all of her characters in the story. And this is one of the things, when I found this page, I thought, okay, I love her. I already love her. She's named the trees and all of the animals, not just the animals on their farm, but the rats and the mice. And she takes care of them and she loves them. And she's named them after some of the characters. How would she know these names? She's not going to know these names from Mrs. Whiteling, who lives and works in the lumber camp, right? These are the names that she remembers from the stories that her parents told her, that her mother mostly told her. So I absolutely love that. I hope you're able to read those words, those names. And then we go to the story of her. And so it talks about what I was just telling you about her life. Going on, this is the story that I told, that I shared. And so this is this sweet little girl. She goes out, she finds some clay and just the dirt in the earth, and she makes little vases and she put them in the oven to bake. And the mama comes home, and this is the adopted mom comes home, finds them, threw them out the window. And when Opal went outside to pick them up, they were broken. She said, I felt sad inside. I went to talk things over with my chum, Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael. He is that most tall fir tree that grows just back of the barn. I scooted up the barn door. From there, I climbed onto the lower part of the barn roof. I walked up a ways. Up there, I took a long look at the world about. One gets such a good wide view of the world from a barn roof. And I just love that. After I looked looks in 4 straight ways and 4 corner ways. So she looked all the way around, front and back and side to side and all the diagonal corners. I said a little prayer. I always say a little prayer before I jump off the barn into the arms of Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael, because that jump is quite a long jump. And if I did not land in the arms of Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael, I might get my leg or neck broken. That would mean I'd have to keep still a long time. Now, I think that would be the most awful thing that could happen, for I do so love to be active. So I always say a little prayer and do that jump in a careful way. Today, when I did jump, I did land right proper in that fir tree. It is such a comfort to nestle up to Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael when one is in trouble. He is such a grand tree. He has an understanding soul. So the story goes on, but I just love it. I love her. I love how positive she is. I just can't imagine. She's talking in this story. She'd been out, was sent to go get milk, and she was supposed to go directly and come right back. And she just wanders. She is so curious about everything. And it's an honest and sincere wandering. Even though it's not completely obedient. I appreciate that kind of wandering and her. She's talking about Felix Mendelssohn, and I think that's a mouse. And she's got him with her, and Brave Horatius, he's the dog. and Lars Porcina of Clusium. I don't even know how to say that right. And Thomas Chatterton, Jupiter Zeus. I mean, these are all these names that she's given. But she's talking about the trees. All those trees are my friends. I call them by names I have given to them. I call them Hugh Capet and St. Louis and good King Edward the First. And the tallest one of all is Charlemagne. And the one around where the little flowers talk most, because she listens and hears the flowers, is William Wordsworth. And there are Byron and Keats and Shelley. When I go straight for the milk, I do so like to come around this way by the lane and talk to these tree friends. I stopped tonight to give each a word of greeting. When I got to the end of the lane, I climbed the gate and thought, oh, I'd better hurry straight on to get the milk. When I went by the barn, I saw a mouse run around the corner, and a graceful bat came near unto the barn door. I got the milk. It was near dark time, so I came again home by the lane and along the corduroy road. When I got most home, I happened to remember the mama wanted the milk in a hurry, so I began to hurry. I don't think I'll print more tonight. I printed this sitting on the wood box where the mama put me after she spanked me after I got home with the milk. Now I think I shall go out the bedroom window and talk to the stars. They always smile so friendly. This is a very wonderful world to live in. So, any thoughts about that little girl's, the beginning of her life and the magic that that gave her, you know, the beauty that that 5-6 years was all a foundation with her mother who loved her, what that gave her that she was able to take with her and have throughout her life. Ida.
I did read that. I forgot that I'd read it. I've been reading so much, but I read that story that you shared, and then I've been listening to the story about Martin Sweat that Marlene posted about. I don't know if any of you've seen it. Anyways, and he has a similar kind of like beginning, you know, like he has this really sweet time with his family until he's about 7, and then he gets basically turned into a slave, really, and passed around from these different 5 families, and he's abused and beaten and stuff. And listening to the accounts that he gives, and all Opal's too, it's just so crazy, like the things that happen to them, and they're just matter of fact about it, you know, like, you know, the mom spanked me and put me on the stump, and then I went outside and saw the stars, and they're so beautiful. Like, how do you have that positive of an attitude after going through those horrible things, you know? And that is just I mean, some kids get spanked, and that's like, but Opal suffered a lot of things, right? And Martin Sweat too, like so many awful, mean things that were done to him by so many people. And how did that not just completely crush them and their spirit? You know, like that to me is so mind-boggling. Like, I can't imagine having to have gone through any of that, you know, and that they held on so tightly to their experiences they had with their parents early in life that were positive. And just like talks about it in Martin Sweat's book, like they had this like almost dreamy view of the world, you know, like in some ways, like they had, like, nature was so much a solace to them, you know. And I've just been like trying to like see all the things, like as I've been reading or listening to this book, and like these other people, like what helped them to get through this, because you know, we have to go through some hard things in our lives, but like I don't think I'll ever experience any of the trauma that they had gone through. But how, you know?
Yeah.
And for me personally, it's really something that I am searching for, because I think about these girls that we're adopting, and they have experienced a lot of trauma. I know. And so for me, I'm like, I want to know everything I possibly can to try to help them to get through those things. Like, and I don't know even if I can necessarily do anything. Maybe it's just within those people. But anyways, those are just thoughts I had about the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. I've been listening to his stories too. That's another thing I had up on the screen share, was how to access that Belmont listening library.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
Yes. Yes, that story, his story is incredible.
And my boys have been listening to my older three, and they didn't like it, like she said, until about the third chapter. And then they're like, just really listening and really taking it in. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, this little boy, 6 years old, he's sent to go through a dark forest up over a mountain to a home to pick something up and then come back on his own by himself.
And lost, and then almost eaten by a bear and a cougar. Like, I just can't even think of it.
Yeah, he's another one. I said on a post somewhere, it's like, I just want to hug the boy, you know. I want to hug that boy, bring him home, you know, take care of him. But look at the lesson. Look at that foundation, those few years that these two children, as an example, spent with their parents in a rich and loving, warm environment, and what that gave them to get through. You know, I don't know if any of you have read The Lonesome Gods. He was older, but a similar story, just beautiful historical fiction by Louis L'Amour. Who knew? Anyway, and it's beautiful how you use these experiences, not just the loving parents that you had, but this shows how storytelling, you know, really hearing good, rich, heartwarming stories of people who were strong people, resilient people, had courage, had, you know, whatever. You can hang on to the stories that you've been told as well, and remember these characters, and have those examples help you through difficult times as well. Amy, were you going to say something? Were you?
I love this story of Opal. I'm going to dive into it more. You've definitely piqued my curiosity. What I was going to say, what the question you were asking was, it's interesting how the mothers, they nourished the light within the child, and they didn't diminish the light. And I think we all, sorry, I think my phone's getting hot. I think we all have, as moms, you know, to do something like that. And because I think if we nourish that light within them, that they can withstand a cougar, a bear, or whatever it is that they have. And, you know, not to make moms feel guilty or anything like that, you know, because I think we all do the best we can the way we know how, obviously. But I think within nourishing that light within the child, like that mom did, you know, doing what she knew how, the best she knew how, right? That made a difference in her. And I think as moms, we do that in our own way, and being able to nourish that light within. So that's, I don't know, that was a thought that had come into my head, my popcorn head.
I love it. I'm typing, sorry. And I forget that you can hear that. Sorry, little. So what that mother did was take her child out in nature, tell her the things that the mother had learned, just share those things with her. So the mother had warmed her heart, and she shared that with her child. That's not hard work. That is just a natural, wonderful thing, an easier thing than maybe what we try to do, is we try to create very involved, you know, whatever activities or lessons or things. It's also the thing that can impact people around us. And even like for Ida, with these girls that are coming, who guaranteed have had a rough life. Ida's got to be, you know, kind of wondering, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to help these girls? Well, how is she going to help them? Warming their hearts, you know, through storytelling, music, art. Music and art, there's no language barrier there. You know, she doesn't have that. Nature, there's no language barrier there. So those are 3 out of the 5 that Ida has access to, no problem. And she knows that those things work. You know, we just have to remember. I think a lot of times we forget that we already have the tools. We make our lives harder by, one, trying to be adult and grown up and serious, you know, and not accepting that the simple road really is the best one. It's really the one that will work. And you kind of think, wait, that's too simple. That's too easy. That can't be the answer, you know, but by small and simple things, right?
I had another thing.
Yeah.
I loved in the book about Martin Sweat too that I've been listening to. There's a part in there where he says he was traveling in a carriage or something to this in Yosemite, I think, and they were going to this uh, the top of this place there, and he didn't think he was going to make it. Anyways, he gets to this place and he gets out, and the view is so astounding to him. Like it's so phenomenal. He felt as if he says he was like, felt he was like in the Holy of Holies. I'm paraphrasing, that it was so sacred because of the beauty of that place. And he said that it healed all the hurts in his soul. And that was so touching to me. Like just the power that that scene had on his heart and soul, all the things that he'd been through. And I was like, wow. And that's true. Thank you for saying that, Lori. Like that nature and music, there's no language barrier. Those things can touch us and heal us and soften our hearts in ways that we aren't aware necessarily all the time, but so true. Wait,
Thanks.
also,
Yeah, go.
you guys see, there was a TED talk that somebody shared about storytelling. This man that still tells stories, and it was on. I don't know if any of you saw
Ooh.
it, and it was about this boy, this storyteller. He tells about his grandfather or his father, that when he was a boy, he put an axe into his leg accidentally. Anyways, you guys should totally look into that because that talks about storytelling too. And in that experience, I'll just real quickly, at the end, the boy, after he goes through all this, he was like 5, and he put this axe right through his kneecap, and and his dad had to take him on a train ride that was like over 100 miles to take him to get this leg fixed at this hospital, right? At the end, he comes back, and his mother says to him, "Okay, now you're going to tell your story." And he's like, "I don't want to tell my story." And she's like, "You got to tell your story, because if you don't tell your story, that'll become like a rock on top of you, and you won't be able to get out from underneath it. And and when you get older and you think about that thing, you'll be 5 again and you'll still feel that heavy weight on you. So you have to tell your story." It was so amazing how he put it, how it was told in this thing. And she said, so she had him tell that story again and again and again. And every time she would say, "Okay, now tell me the first time, like, tell me what you learned. Tell me what the doctors learned. Tell me what your family learned." And in a whole thinking about different things as he told the story. And he said, at the end of that, I realized that chopping my leg with an axe was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And he said he felt that because he realized all the good things that happened to him because of that hard thing that he had to go through. And I was just, it was really profound how the guy put it, but it was a really awesome story. You should totally check it out. It's on the Facebook page, and if you want, I can put a link to it or whatever. So anyways.
Yeah, yeah, do that, Ida. And it's still on my YouTube thing. That's my very next thing to watch, because whatever you recommend, I'm watching. I love following you. I love reading your posts. I love the things that you share. You've shared some very significant things. I think, my goodness, what would this community be without you? So, I mean, without any of you, really. And I love seeing what Amy called this quilt, that's on the screen of these women. I absolutely love seeing your faces. I love interacting with you. I love the comments that you share, your life stories that you're real. And it's amazing to me, but at the same time, it makes sense. Heavenly Father brought us together. There's no way that that's not true. I'm certain of that fact. And we need each other, and we're learning and growing together. And that's really cool that we have got these new friendships because of this. And I love it. I love it. I love seeing this grid of women. And I know some of you can't always come on screen, and I understand that. But when you can, please do, because it's just wonderful to interact with and see your faces. So, but I was going to say, like I said last time, so many people talk about, well, Zoom is just not friendly, and it just is not. That's not going to work, trying to do that on Zoom. And I think, no, you don't know. You don't understand what can happen if you just, like that phrase, you just show up. You show up and you be you, and you offer whatever it is that you're there that day, to offer, and be vulnerable. That's another thing. You got to risk being vulnerable if you're going to make any connections that actually matter. But I love that idea and that story, Ida. Sorry, I'm looking around my camera because you're like right behind my camera. But I love that idea and that story that you have to tell your story. Otherwise, you're going to always forever be 5 in that story. That's very significant. For any of you who have had or who have trauma in your life, in your background, which, for most people, that's a given. That's a significant statement, because I remember one time sharing recently with my sister a story that she didn't know about. And she said, oh my goodness, that answers so much. And she said, when you share that, you are 6 years old, sharing that story. And I didn't realize that, but that was a very, just like this, oh my gosh, you're right. That's why those emotions are what they are, because it never made sense to me, but anyway, so, and even journaling, we talked about that. Linnell was so helpful in talking to us about journaling. And Linnell, I'm guessing that that's a very significant reason people journal as well, is to be able to write down and kind of share their stories and maybe make some sense of their stories. Do you learn that with your journal writing experience or lessons?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really good for mental health, emotional health. I also think that sharing your story can just bless others. I think of scriptures that we read. I think of autobiographies and great lives, what we learn about those people. They're all just recording their lives and sharing their stories. And I had a thought while Ida was talking. I don't know if she was asking her question, if it was rhetorical or not, when she said, how do they get through? What do they do to get through all of these challenges? I think that's a very important question. And it's a really important skill to have. And it's something that we as mothers really need to figure out. How do I teach my children to get through hard things? And how do I get through hard things? And I was thinking, like, what would I answer to that? What are my thoughts about that? How do I teach my children and how do I get through hard things? And this past week I had an experience with my son. He wanted to open his scooter and he couldn't. It was hard for him. He couldn't press the button. He kept asking me for help, and I was doing dinner. And so I said, I can't help you right now. Can you ask your brother for help? He just got so frustrated. He didn't want to do it. It was really hard for him. And then I remembered a story that I had read to them, I think a day before, maybe that day. It was called The Little Duckling Who Didn't Give Up. And it was about these ducks who were trying to go wade in the ocean, and the waves kept bringing them up, and they would go back and kept bringing them up. The tide kept bringing them away, and they continued to try to get back in. And the story just says that they tried 8 or 10 times and he never gave up. That's kind of how it ends. But I just referenced that story to my son, and I said, you remember the little duckling who never gave up? And he said, yeah. And then he went and he figured it out. It was as easy as that. I was so frustrated with him for about 10 minutes, with him constantly asking me for help. And I couldn't give him the answer or the motivation or the encouragement to do it on his own. But the moment I talked about the duckling, he was inspired. He knew what he had to do, and he went and figured it out. So I think that 2 things here, this experience taught me that our stories and what we choose to read to our children really can be our parenting friends. And in that case, I was so relieved that I could call on that story and remind him of that. It helped me. And I also think that nature is so powerful in teaching us. So it was about this duckling who taught this lesson. I couldn't have taught him, well, just don't give up, don't give up. It was the duckling who modeled that. And I think as we spend more time outside in nature, our children can learn from that, and they can see how nature is resilient. I think Lindsay Bunting made a comment that our children are so resilient, and maybe that's just something that they have within them, that nature can nourish that. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of learning that and figuring it out as I go, but I think the power of stories as parenting friends and the power of nature as just helping and encouraging us is so important.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that and for asking that question or encouraging that discussion about that. And it makes me think, Linnell, about the story you shared about your son being outside and slipping on that icy spot and then going back to it. I mean, he fell hard and he hit his head hard, but he went back to that spot. And I think you said he was throwing snow on it and doing different things, kind of learning and trying to figure it out. And those are the lessons that are right there in nature. And I think that's so significant. Go ahead if you're going to share something more about that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I was amazed to see how he was able to overcome that fear. He did throw snow and he was trying to test his balance. He was more cautious. And then he even recognized the difference between icy, shiny, and not. And so all of that learning took place in 5 minutes that I never could have taught him myself.
Yeah, right. And I love that. And I love this concept that we're taught, but now you're showing us, you know, and as we're discussing, we're seeing this in action, that these stories have this power, because we can share the name of the story or the character from the story, and all of a sudden they have this whole toolbox that they can use to answer the problem. You know, think about how much time you would have to take to teach those steps, where now, because you have shared that story, you just remind of the story, and now they've got these tools that they can use. I love that. It's just the power of storytelling, and that's huge. And that's why I've always loved the book, The Lonesome Gods, because the character in this story, his parents read the classics to him. And so he knew those stories. And when he had these difficult things come up in his life, very difficult things, the story takes place in early California time, when California was still owned by Mexico. And, you know, there's just this kind of wild country and all these experiences that he had. But he would go back and he would lean on the characters and the things he remembered from these stories that he'd been told. And that helped him have the courage or the resilience, or gave him ideas or whatever to get through the problems that he had. Anyway, just love that. I'm going to see for a second, Laura. I'm checking to see, Laura, if I remember correctly, is this Laura Lines? And if you're not close to your phone, you're not gonna be able to answer this. So I understand that.
I'll answer for her. It's Laura Pollock.
Oh, okay. Oh, so she's right there with you. Okay. Hi, Laura.
She's playing with the kids. So she's like, can you get on there and tell them it's me?
Okay. All right. Good.
She's the one that saved me today.
Brought you your charger. And there's Bennett, cute little guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So Laura, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Lindsay. There's another Laura that sometimes gets on here, and I think hers says Laura Lines, but she's the one who has that resilient mother, resilient child little mini course. She'll send you 5 little emails that have this training for training resilient kids. It's really good. I like it a lot. There's some really good points in there. So if any of you are interested, Lindsay and I are making strides on this email thing. So we'd like to get that information to you if you're interested, so you can share that with us. There's lots of resources that we could use like that, but it's interesting because a lot of the principles, you know, they go back to this warm your hearts, you know, nurture your hearts through the arts. Storytelling, music, art, poetry, and I told you I'm still struggling with that one, and nature. Those 5 things. You moms could let go of a lot of the things that are on your list of things that you think you need to be doing with your kids, and just read stories and look at beautiful pictures and listen to beautiful music and get outside and memorize poems. And I promise you, because I have seen it happen so many times, that is going to trickle down. It's going to influence and affect your family. Your husband's going to notice it in such a significant way that he's going to make sure that you're available on Fridays to make this call. I mean, if that doesn't tell you something, you know, that one thing is just amazing to me and very significant. And, you know, it's not, I don't think for 1 second that it's me. You're not coming to talk to me or listen to me. You're coming because these principles and these things, these discussions we're having with these wonderful, amazing women, which is you, are affecting your heart. It's warming and nurturing your heart, filling your cup, however you want to look at that. but it is doing that. And it's making you a kinder, softer, more capable, warmer, more nurturing person, more interesting person, right? And the people around you want to be around you more. And it's simpler than what you were doing before. How is that not this perfect, wonderful answer? If you are, think of your role as a parent, and if you want your children to be wonderfully happy and successful and be able to be to feel fulfilled in their lives, wouldn't you love it if you could give them a way to do that that would be enjoyable for them? You know, would you rather give them a way to do that that would be enjoyable, or that would be really difficult and miserable? You know, as a loving parent, wouldn't you give them the one that's beautiful? And
I
that's
can share something with this, Lori.
good. Thanks, Linnell.
So before I started school with my son, I asked him to fill out this book. Not fill it from cover to cover, but I just bought him a book that has a blank spot for pictures and some lines for writing. And before learning about inspire versus require, I was essentially requiring him to do this. And I was so disappointed when he resisted it. I was like, this is a good idea. You should draw some pictures and write some words. And he did not do it. It did not work. And he kind of hated it. And it just dissolved after maybe a week. And I was finding myself getting really frustrated trying to get him to do this. Of course, it's like I wanted him to practice his writing. I wanted him to be able to draw his pictures. And before this, he was drawing just fine and loved it. After this, he started hating it a little bit. And so I realized I had to back off. And so when I learned about, I just listened to a podcast that reminded me or just reinforced this really important concept of inspiring versus requiring. And as I've done a lot more heart educating and nature, music, art, poetry, all of these things, my son has magically done it on his own. And I have this other book that he started 3 days ago.
Good job.
And we watched Heidi, and it was recommended when we were learning about Switzerland, I think last month maybe. We watched Heidi, and it is the sweetest movie. I just loved it. We watched it with my children. And actually, Lori's story about Opal reminded me of Heidi a lot. She loved being in nature. She was just this carefree, really sweet, kind little girl. And at the end of that movie, Heidi is gifted a book, and she wants to be a writer and wants to write in this book all her stories. The next morning, my son writes a story all on his own. And so I was able to give him this book that I actually had bought for my America Storybook, and it was the wrong size. So I just had it sitting on my shelf unused, and I was able to give it to him. And actually, before I realized, so he wrote me the story and he presented me, and I was blown away. How did my 5-year-old son write the story on his own? So I'm realizing that I did nothing to have him start writing, but I did do other things, like nothing directly inspired him, but lots of other things inspired him. So now he's written short stories every day, and I am just amazed and really inspired by his writing, and they're really sweet short stories, and he's motivated to do it on his own. I don't have to ask him about it. He just comes up with these stories on his own. And so then tying in this imagination part, I don't know where his imagination comes from. I can't make him write a story, but he can want to write a story, and then it's a beautiful story. And so I think children have it within them, and I just need to learn to allow that to come out and not, what's it called? Not push it down, not hide it. I can't think of the word right now, but then I need to learn from him. And then that inspired me to, maybe I can try writing my own story. And so I was writing some of my own stories the other day, very simple, sweet 3-line stories, but he inspired me, and it was the music, art, nature, poetry that inspired him. And it's just inspiring everyone.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That is the perfect example of how this works. And it's like this every time. It's a pattern. It's an established pattern of learning, and it works. And Ida's saying that that happened with her son, her 12-year-old son as well. Similar circumstance. I love that. I love it. Okay, and you said you did nothing. I'm sorry. I disagree with you, Linnell. I think you did everything that mattered. You provided the feast. Here it is. Here's the banquet. Come and sup. Right? And he did. And he's benefiting from that. And I love that. I think that's wonderful. And we can too. We can provide for ourselves something different than maybe what we've been spending our time on in our lives. I'm really trying, set this down, right? And go read, go listen, go play, go engage, go outside. Amy and I were talking about that this week, getting away from our phones and those habits that come. That's a thing that happens. Though every time you pick this up, you're establishing these what are you doing? There's neural pathways, right? And you're making them stronger and stronger and stronger, so that every time you see this, you think, oh, I got to pick that up. Oh, and that just happens so often. Well, you can establish new ones. And so that's what I'm working on, is establishing stronger ones than picking up my silly phone. But doing something more positive, something that warms my heart, so that it can go down to my children. So same thing happened with my youngest, in his last years of high school. I had been requiring, I don't know, I got to the end and it's like I forgot. And I just wanted him to get finished so that, make sure we didn't miss anything. And I started requiring, and he fought it. And yeah, exactly. Every time I saw Ida, I can tell that's what you said. Yes, every time. And so then I thought, Lori, so back off. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be brave. And I just said, you know what, sweetie, I don't care what you do for school. You go and pursue things you're interested in. What are you interested in? Go learn about it. You want to take a class about it? I'll pay for the class. What do you want to learn about? What do you want to do? And he just was like, really? And it took a couple of weeks for him to believe me. Like, I'm not going to ask for some, I don't know, some proof of what he was learning or whatever. I said, you come tell me about it. That's all you have to do, is come tell me about what you're learning, And oh my gosh, the amount of things that he's done in the past couple of years, I would never have required this much, ever. I would never have even thought of doing that, assigning that much work. And it's incredible the things that he has learned. And it's because he just got to explore what he was interested in. And it's just really incredible to see that happen. I love all the faces. Yeah, Ida, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I am like, this is going great. Everything's going good. And my son is like doing stuff, and I'm not even like pushing him. And then I forget. And then I'm like, okay, we need to set some goals. Let's do some goal setting. Let's make some plans here. And I'm like, what do you want to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
Seriously, it drives me crazy. And then when I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. Like, just do something, like whatever you want. Like, I really have to just be like silent. And then he goes and does the craziest things that I'm like, wow, that is amazing. He decided he wanted to write a book. He like goes and builds things. He like is constantly reading and studying about birds and animals and things, and going out and trying to make a habitat for them, snakes. I'm like, great. But it's amazing how much he's learning on his own, like you say. And like, I'm like, I just need to go and like review the stuff in the mother's introduction thing, and like be like, okay, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Like, maybe like monthly. I don't know.
Oh, I think so. I think we need to review it, because the messages we're getting everywhere else are different. Wait, hold on. How are you measuring that? What have they learned? What are they doing? What are they, what if they tested? I don't know, whatever. But no, just back off, moms. Just back off. Back off. Be fun. Be pleasant. Be cheerful. Be nurturing. Work on yourself. Fill your cup. Isn't it amazing how impressed your kids are when you're doing something or learning something? Have you had that feedback yet? You know, some of you have kids that are pretty young, so maybe you don't have that feedback quite yet. So remember, right now, we are your cheering squad. So share your victories with us, even if they're tiny. And you have got to do, you know, you got to take care of that because if they're not there yet to where they're kind of excited for you. Like right now, my kids are giving me major kudos as a grandma. They're saying, wow, you're doing way better than I thought you were, which is, you know, it's one of those mixed compliments or whatever. I can't remember what you call that, but okay, thank you. But then when I have them explain, it's like they thought that I was going to like hog the baby the whole time and never let any of them hold her. And that I was going to tell the parents what they should do and how they should do it, which I was actually quite fearful of myself. I'm like, where's the duct tape? You know, like, oh, how do you not share, you know, what you think they should do? But anyway, apparently I'm doing quite well. So, so it's good to have some feedback, I guess. I like yours better, actually, to tell you the truth. So, I come here Friday too, so that I can get to talk with you and have positive feedback. So share your victories, share them here. This is a place where you can get acknowledged. If you're, you know, if you have that feeling come up during the week that, oh my goodness, I do all of this for them and they don't understand. They can't see how important this is and how much this matters. And, you know, come here, share with us. We get it. Okay.
The one thing, Lori, I wanted to add while I heard while you're driving with our hearts and warming our hearts and things like that and being the example, the thing that was coming to me is I think we do need to warm our hearts and us coming together and filling our cup and things like that, because it softens our hearts, like you said, in this cynical world. And I think that people see that and they're being attracted, you know, like with, I was driving, was it Linnell of this story with her kid and stuff? You know what I mean? Like it was just, they see it. People see it no matter big or small when your heart is being softened. That I think what we're doing for ourselves and is that it looks inviting. So I think our children, our friends, our family are seeing that. And so I think it's an attractant because of the tornadoes that maybe are going around in life at the moment. And so being, like you said, softening and with nature and art and all of that, it's good because there's so much poo going around that is just, it's just nice to have some flowers in there. So
yeah, that's great. I love it. We might as well plant the flowers, right? You know, 1,000 hours outside, Jenny, she's got a new little side thing going and it's plant zinnias. She is inviting all of us to plant zinnias along with her. And she wants us to share our pictures. So I'm doing it. I bought my seeds, so I'm ready to go. I'm going to plant some zinnias. So she just, you know, you're adding some beauty to your world, something, a reason to go outside, right? Something else to go out there and see and enjoy and appreciate. So what have you done this week to warm your heart? This is your time to check in.
I'll go first.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Lori asked me this yesterday and I thought about it all day because I like responded to her real quickly, like, oh, I'm doing this and this and this. And then I thought about it all day and it just was such a good question to think about all day. But I shared with her, okay. Oh. All these kids at the river is a little distracting. I may not do this again on Friday morning. But my friend has Laura that's on here. She's got 6 and 2 of them are really little. So we've got 10 all out here. Anyway, so I was sharing with Lori how I had made these menus. So I bought these like actual menus that you use at a restaurant I saw the idea somewhere online. Somebody shared this cool idea. You put whatever you want inside the little clear pages. So mine's like 6 or 8 pages. I can't remember. And I've had them for like a year and I couldn't figure out how to use them. And then this last week, the spirit just kind of told me what to put in each page. I was just like, okay. And I wrote it on the thing and then found something to print to go in there. And it just kind of fell into place. And it's been so nurturing for my heart and the kids' hearts this week. And so on the front of it, I have like a motto. I just thought I just need like a family motto that we just say all year or for however long we need it. And I've always heard I can do hard things. Like it's just something so simple. And we've talked about it today. How do we get our kids to do hard things and get through hard things? And so I thought it just almost seems too simple, but it stayed with me. So I put that on the front. And then I found a poem. In the mornings, we always do song, prayer, poem, pledge. And that's just kind of been our thing for a long time. So I found a song, and Israel, God is Calling was in the Come Follow Me manual for this month. So I thought that's a good one. Threw it in there, put a picture of a pioneer family underneath that. And then I put a poem from the Book of Delights for this month, which was Robins Sing in the Rain. And that has been like just these small and simple things. I thought, oh, that's a good one. And I threw it in there. And the impact it's made on us just over, it's only, it's been 5 days that we've been doing this. And it talks about how even on hard days when kids are complaining, robins sing in the rain. Like they will sing during hard times. We can sing in hard times. So all of it kind of fell into that we can do hard things thing. And can you guys hear all the chaos around me, or is that just me? Lori's nodding like, Maybe I'll go for a little walk. But
No, it's great. You're fine.
Hold on. So my 8-year-old's been really into Davy Crockett, and it fell into the time frame for Well-Educated Heart this month too. And so I thought, I wanted to put an ancestor page. I thought, wouldn't it be great if we were related to Davy Crockett and it all just worked out together? Well, we are. So I put our little family history chart so that we're related to Davy Crockett. So they get that connection. Like I can be like him because we're this, we're family. And I've learned about Davy Crockett like last year during the rotation. So I've just put my page in there and then put a page in there for them to write anything they want to. And of course, I won't require it, but if they want to write something about him, they can. And so I'm just sharing little stories about Davy Crockett. And I realized he went through a lot of hard things. We can get through hard things too, just like Davy Crockett did. So, and I have like a little watercolor page. So they loved watercolors, like a watercolor, a robin or whatever. Anyway, just these little things. And I made a menu for me. And it's just been so great. And I just feel like the Spirit just inspires us to do the things that are going to nurture our hearts. I don't know.
And that are going to work for your family too. And don't forget that there's a watercolor page in there for you too, because you've got that.
Yeah. I have one too. I have the exact same thing the kids do. And then learning about that hymn this morning, I was learning about who wrote the hymn and why and what that means. And again, it's all tied in together. And I feel like the timing, the Spirit tells us when we're going to need these things. We can hang on to something for years and then he's going to go, okay, now's the time to use it. It'll work really well right now. But it's just interesting. But as I thought about it all day, so I shared those things with you. And I just thought, the things that nurture my heart are just seriously so small, like cooking dinner for my family, cleaning, like making my bed, like those things nurture my heart. So I don't know. I that's something, and I wrote in my journal. I thought of Linnell as I was writing too. Recording, what did I do to nurture my heart today? And I just thought, well, that would be a good question. Where have we seen the hand of the Lord? And what have I done to nurture my own heart? I like that.
I love it. And see, I love that we're influencing each other, because I've been better about my journal too, because of you, Linnell. So as we share the things that we have a passion for and that we now, have those stronger feelings about, then that can inspire other moms around us. So I love that. Thank you. Well, and I had an awesome day the other day. My daughter was home from work and she said, Mom, do you have a notebook? And I said, well, I have these 2 journals and they just kind of keep going back and forth. And one's a notebook and one's a journal. And then I forget which one's which and they switch places and stuff. But I went and pulled them out and I was like, oh, look, this one's called notebook. I'll call this one my notebook and this one my journal. And I said, why? And she said, well, because I like to make lists. And I was wondering if you would maybe want to make a list with me. I was like, oh, I would love to do that. Because, I'd love to do that. That'd be so awesome. So anyway, we sat down and she just gave me this. She has a list of lists, things that you could do. And she said, just pick one. Well, I had one of those experiences where, oh, wait, this is hard. I don't know where to start. I haven't done this for a while. And, like trying a new thing. I had those kinds of feelings. And I thought, okay, Laura, you're just going to have to jump in, and she's like, Mom, just pick one. And so I did. I picked things I love about nature, And so I started with the list and then I started writing about the things. I had such a great experience doing this, just sitting down and making a list. And anyway, it just kind of like I'm writing this list of things I love. And I was birds first because I love birds and I love trees. And I was writing about that and nests and feathers. And then my head went, and so I wrote down, except that I'm supposed to be an adult and realize that feathers are, are yucky and dirty and whatever, but I still like them, but it was kind of that I had that experience as I'm writing about, that adult being responsible, being whatever, serious comes in, and then back to the child. No, but I love feathers. I love bird feathers. They're pretty. And they, birds can fly. I used to gather feathers, and, if you had enough of them, maybe you could get going. I loved these pictures that I found, and I put one of them on Instagram where it shows the shadow, that shows the child, on the little rocking horse thing. And then the shadow is the child on this gallant horse, and there were ones about flying and things like, and I love that. I love that it brings you back to imagination. And could you make that be part of your life again? Could you let yourself dream and imagine things that, are a little bit bigger, a little more, a little bit better? What happens to you when that's so going off on a tangent here, but what happens when you put on music that you love? You put on music that the kind that you can't sit still, right? And it makes you move. It makes you feel something. You're not just this boring adult, something different happens to you. Oh, that's so cute, Lindsay. My kids were tickling my ears with a feather last night and seeing how long I could last without laughing. So weird, but it was fun. Yes. You just embrace those things. You start being more fun and engaging more and doing those things. There's some Instagram thing that was going around where my daughter was telling me, kids were putting on an ABBA song. I can't remember, Dancing Queen, I think. And they would put the music on and they were filming their mom to see how long it would take before she started, dancing or responding or something, and it was so funny. Like the one she showed me, this mom's like, she's at the kitchen sink doing whatever. And the song comes on. She's like, she was like running toward her kid or something. I'm like, okay, I don't do that. But then I was like, why not? That's way more fun. Okay, so side thing, but I got to go to London. I got to visit my daughter when she was over there, my youngest one. And we went to go see Mamma Mia 2 in the theater. And by the end, like the whole theater is up and in the aisles and dancing. And so my daughter and I were doing that. We had so much fun. It was like, let go of all of those limitations, and just have fun. Okay, sort of side note, but can you see where maybe this sort of ties in? Okay, I think that being able to imagine helps us see the possibilities instead of all the reasons why something won't work or is dangerous or risky. It helps us to believe in things we can't see or completely understand. Thank you, Ida. I love that. There was an article, a thing written in 1,000 hours, something about a mom was saying, okay, so mamas, do you let your kids climb up the slides the wrong way, And, and these moms were like, don't you be doing that. That's dangerous. And the kid was like, my mom lets me do it. I don't know. She lets me try things or lets me do whatever, do things. And the mom was like, well, don't come crying to me. The other mom, the overly concerned, very helpful mom at the park. Don't come crying to me if you get hurt. The little kid goes, I won't, I'll go crying to my mom, and the mom was like, when the kid comes to her, she's like, good job, way to stand up for yourself. That was awesome. It's like, what's wrong with climbing up the slide backwards? Not if there's a little kid trying to come down, none of that, right? Being respectful and all of those things should come into play. But I would let my kids like climb on the outside of slides and stuff if there were no little kids around. If there were little kids around, they couldn't. Bad example, you might hurt the little kids, whatever. But go out and have fun. Try to let go of a few of the restrictions. There was a thing around for a while that was saying, see if you cannot say no, but offer, an alternative. And I like that. My kids had a lot of no's because there are boundaries and there are, things you need to learn, good and bad and wrong and right and stuff like that. But yeah, they need to take risks. They need to learn to do that. I love Linnell's story about her child in the ice. That is such a great example. Let them do that and look at what they learned from that. So fabulous. Deidre, were you going to share something?
Yeah, I was typing it, but I can just say it.
Yeah, I know, share.
This whole idea of like letting them go and letting them do things and letting them take the risk. That's something I've been thinking about a lot. The house that we're going to be living in a couple of weeks, the backyard literally ends in a cliff. I have a very active, adventurous boy that I know is going to go right up the cliff at some point, and trying to figure out like how to set some boundaries for safety, but allowing, yeah, there he is, but allowing that adventure and that exploration. That's something that we're going to have to figure out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But
The question is, does the cliff go up or down?
well, it goes up.
Okay.
So
That's much better.
at the bottom of the cliff, and it goes up.
So rock climbing. I mean, this is when we focus on rock climbing, and rock climbing skills, and right.
Yeah, that's something I'm hoping we can find, maybe a class we can take or something where we can learn how to do this correctly.
Yeah. Or with mom, YouTube videos.
Right.
In the meantime. But yes, right. And that would be something that would be in my heart and mind too, like, okay, how are we going to navigate this? But what a great opportunity for both of you.
Yes.
To figure that out.
Can I say something about that, Deidre?
Mm-hmm.
My kids, we moved from Washington State to Texas. And there are a lot of snakes in Texas, and they are not in Washington. Also terrifying bugs of every size and shape, right? And when we first moved here, I was terrified to even let them go outside, because I was like, what if they like find a poisonous snake? I will, maybe they'll like get bit and die, like all these things, right? Because I literally knew zero about them. And my husband, bless his heart, just started buying these stupid little pamphlets from the local grocery store that have all the poisonous snakes in Texas and all this bugs and all the things. And my kids loved them, and they were constantly looking at them and reading them and going outside and seeing if they could find the lizards or the spiders and trying to figure out if it was, and they like devoured those, right? And then we were in like a little subdivision, and then we moved into the country where there were even more snakes. And so I was like, oh my gosh. Plus I have, my oldest is 12 and my youngest was like not even really walking when we moved into this house. And so I'm like, she doesn't know anything, like, so it has been really hard for me, but I let them all go outside unsupervised by me all together, and they stay together. And the older ones are constantly telling the little kids about this or that or the other thing, this, and showing them stuff inside and outside, like, this is a snake, these ones are bad snakes, these ones are poisonous, and they know all these things. But it's been amazing to see how much they are learning, and how much they're not only learning it, I know they're learning it because they're teaching their siblings, because their siblings come back and tell me, Mom, this is a bad snake, this one's poisonous, da 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 da. And I'm just like, awesome, I'm so glad you know. So I mean, really, there's so much power in teaching them how to navigate that, like obviously in a safe way, right? You don't just say, okay, well, here's a den of snakes, have fun, but you also you allow them to take a little bit of risk in a safe way, and that helps them later on so much. Like, yes, you could hurt yourself, my kid could get bit by a snake, and I sometimes have to think out like, okay, so worst case scenario, this could happen. Is it worth putting my kid in bubble wrap and not letting them have any fun or live life because I'm afraid of some really, really small possibility of a danger happening, right? So like, and sometimes just actually figuring out what the percentage is of somebody getting bit and dying from a snake bite in Texas is a really good thing to find out. So you're like, you know what? They're more likely to get hit by a car than bit by a snake and die. So it's good. It's good. So
yeah,
just that.
I wanted to add one more thing to Ida's comment about this letting kids take risks. I have a son who really likes to ask me, can I cut this? Can I touch that? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I want to say no, but I think sometimes we underestimate our opportunity and our responsibility to teach them. And so a lot of times, well, I had to shift this, but now I'll say, yes, you can. And if you do that, then this will happen. And just the other day, he wanted to cut one of the books I made. And I said, yes, you can cut that. But if you do that, I will be sad. And then my book won't, it won't be a book anymore. And he said, okay, I won't do it then. And so before I used to tell them no, no, no all the time. And it's been really amazing to see how when I say, yes, you can, and this is what will happen, how they can choose for themselves and how they can recognize. And so it's my opportunity to teach him. And then I'm always relieved when he chooses not to do what I don't want him to do. And so it's a little bit harder when there's danger involved, but I think we have to start small in showing them that we trust them to make choices and empowering them to make good choices for themselves.
I think that's huge. And that's a great example of that. I love that. And I think sometimes it could be even, can I do that? Like a thing, like maybe they want to cut up an apple or something, and they haven't used a sharp knife or something. It's like, yeah, you can do that, but you'll have to wait until mom can, supervise or something. But there are lots of ways that we can say yes and let them make those choices if they know what the consequences are. And the other thing is now that I have older kids and they're talking about things that happened when they were younger, I am seeing that so many times I was not listening to their question, or, I heard the words, but I didn't understand what they were asking. And if I had taken seriously just a few more minutes, just stopped the thing I was doing, which was probably some kind of cleaning or, something on my list of things that I thought was important, which I can tell you every day, if you need a reminder, not so important. Important overall, but do it that night before you go to bed or something. But give them that extra couple of minutes and just ask them. Don't assume that you know what they're asking or why they're asking. Ask them, can you tell me a little bit more about why you want to do that or why you're asking that question? What are you curious about? And then they because when my kids tell me these stories, I think, oh my word, if I'd had a clue that's what you were asking, oh, we could have done this. I would have said that, but I wasn't hearing. I wasn't really hearing what they were saying. So as I watch parents, that's one of the things that I think nowadays is I can see, that's what I've said before, when you take this step back, just kind of lean back. That's my little, lean back a minute and have a wider perspective and see if you can see a little bit more of what's going on. Because I'll watch an interaction with a parent and a child and I'll think, oh, that's not what they're saying. I know you're busy right now, but if you had just a moment to pause, this would be a very different situation, and I think that probably happens a lot. So even maybe that could be a heartwarming thing that you try, lean back, take a minute, listen to your child. And like Linnell was saying, maybe find some ways to say yes more than no. I like that. Amy, Gavitas, were you going to come on? Your screen lit up for a sec. I know you're often driving or you're at work, so maybe that's not an option.
I just have to tell you, Lori, my daughter's in the car and she listened to the last part where you were saying, and she said, you need to start listening to this woman.
That's so funny. That's what my kids would say too. What's your daughter's name?
Lillian, here she is.
Hi.
Lillian. Hi, sweetie. How old is Lillian? How old are you, hun?
I am 12, turning 13.
Oh yeah, always.
Going on 17. Of course, no. Yes. But yeah, she was agreeing everything you were saying. She gave me the look like, see, you need to listen to me. So
it's hard. As moms, we've got so many things on our plate. We really do have a lot of things that we're juggling. And our kids can't see that. They don't know about all that yet. They can see a lot of it because they're very smart. They know a lot of stuff and they're aware. But there's maybe some other things that you don't talk about, that they don't see, that you've got on your mind. And so you've got all this going. So, to be fair, absolutely, you've got a bunch of stuff going on. But all of us could take a step back and lean back and try to see. Our kids could do that. They could take a step back and look at mom and what mom's doing and give mom credit for the stuff she's doing well. And moms could take a step back and look at their kids and try to listen more and be more aware. If we were all to do that, my goodness, things would be so much better. In fact, I'm so glad. Okay, so Lillian, thank you for bringing this up. And this is Lillian de Weirdo. Just guessing. But that reminded me of this story. I was listening to a podcast, and it was well, it doesn't matter, but I think it was Sharon Eubanks, but she was sharing a story, and she shared part of this in a conference talk. And she was talking about a woman who got released from a calling in a women's organization, and she was saying, one got released and another one was called. So this woman is saying, I was at the meeting when the new woman got called and put into this calling to be, a president in this organization. And she said, I was thinking, oh my word, I don't know of a woman here who has more going on in her life right now than this one. This is going to be so difficult for her, and feeling a little concerned for her. This woman gets up and says, I know a lot of you know that in the last couple of years, there've been a lot of things I'm paraphrasing, but a lot of things going on in my life, and I've kind of been on a rough road or something like that. And a lot of you have walked some of this with me, and this has been very difficult. And I appreciate so much the understanding or the acceptance or whatever that you've given me over this time. And she said, I want you to know that I will do the same for you, basically. And then she said, she's the woman who had said, I will keep your name safe. Your name is safe with me. And I think that is such a beautiful thought. And so then they discussed this a little bit, this idea, what if everybody did that? What if we all did that for each other? What if we all tried to see the best in the other person, try to see what it was they were trying to do, appreciate their efforts, encourage them, be in their camp. It's like, sometimes I feel like, especially in a family, and this happens for lots of reasons, in a family, that you're going to be loved and accepted no matter what. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling just a little bit not right, sometimes you are not your best self around your family, because that's the only place where you can do that and still be accepted and loved. But this idea of maybe trying a little harder to see each other for what you're doing well and right. And that goes moms for teenagers, moms for babies, teenagers for moms, siblings for each other, husbands to wives and wives to husbands, all of these relationships. If we tried to give each other the benefit of the doubt, probably that person is not trying to make my life miserable, and like I said, both ways. They probably aren't out to get me. We're all on the same team. We're just, something's going on. Take a minute, listen a little bit more. Like Ida's story with her son from last week or the week before, we're talking about the hugs. When Ida was talking about having her son being a little stinky, and she was feeling frustrated because she was I don't remember what you were in the middle of. Can you want to kind of retell that story? Are you at a place you can retell that story?
Sure. So he was just being really a punk and into stuff and fighting and all this. And I was cooking dinner and I yelled at him and I was like, Parley, get in here, and I'm like sitting there and kind of yelling at him, and he just starts crying. And then I just stop talking. I'm like, I don't even know. In my head, I'm thinking, I do not know what to do. This is making me insane. This has got to stop, right? And it just came into my head it was inspiration. I know it was. And I don't know, I didn't want to say it at first because I was so frustrated with him. But the inspiration was to ask him if he needed a hug. And finally I was like, I just need to ask him. And I did. And he just started crying. And he was like, yes, I need a hug. And so I was really disappointed in myself, for not seeing that, but also thankful for that inspiration, yeah, this is what he needed. And he is also, he doesn't talk much. He's like his dad. He's real quiet, doesn't communicate a lot. And he also said to me one day, Mom, I just don't want Saturday to come. And I was in the middle of cooking dinner again. And I was like, Saturday's coming, dude. I don't know what to tell you. I'm busy. Right. And it wasn't until the next day I realized his best friend for several years, since they were really in nursery. So they were 8, 9, 10, 9 or 10 at the time, was moving out of state, and he was just like real sad about that. And I didn't realize it until a few days later, and I felt so bad that I'd missed that opportunity to like talk to him about that and help him with those feelings, you know? And so it's so true. Like, just take a minute to listen and try to like ask for help, because Heavenly Father is going to help you to connect with that child and to reach out to them when it's important.
Thank you. And you know, we get so caught up in feeding, taking care of, checking off all the things that our kids, that we need to do for our kids because of all the stuff that they're involved in and all the things that are going on in their lives, that we forget that what they want most is our time. That's what they want. And we forget that that really is the most important commodity. And we actually could make time. We make time for the things we want to make time for. So that's not to be a negative on moms. I have been, one of my heartwarming activities is, and it might sound goofy, but is to show myself grace, because I've not done that in most of my life. And I'm working on it, and I've been doing a good job. And so do that. Just look at this opportunity. If this is opening up something for you and you're going, oh, wow, I could do that more, which I really think probably every human being could do that more, then don't look back on the past and go, oh my gosh, I've been such a bad mom and I missed all these opportunities and I did all these. No, there is no point in looking back unless you look back to go, wow, I'm doing a lot better today than I did, before. That's a value. That's good. Learn from that past, but move forward. So take these stories and say, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to lean back. And then, and even when we're in the middle of, it always happens though, when you're in the middle of dinner, you're in the middle of something and you're late and somebody's coming and something's happening and, but honestly, don't you think, this is what I think, why didn't I ever think of this? Don't you think that if you're in that situation, that if you took a minute, that Heavenly Father would help you out when you got back to the thing that you were doing? Of course. It's like this biggest duh, that I've had as far as little, inspiration revelation goes. Yeah, of course. So take the minute, it's going to be so much more important. And if you have a really effective minute, you might even have got yourself a helper, for the next little while. But take a minute. This work, we forget. All the distractions, all the other stuff comes up to pull us away from doing our most important work. And we get caught up in but I have a job to do. I'm an adult, I'm responsible, and I have to clean the house and I have to do this stuff. And you don't understand, but you have this thing you need to get to. And in order to do that, I've got to find this paperwork, whatever the thing is. No, your job, that's the stuff that happens to keep you guys employed, to keep your life running smoothly, to keep the house from not stinking because it's so filthy dirty. I mean, whatever, like there are things, keep your children fed, so they're not hungry. Yeah, those things have to be done, but that's not your job. That's not the main thing on your list of responsibilities. It's nurturing your child. It's nurturing your heart, nurturing the people around you, nurturing your spouse, nurturing your extended family, whatever it is, wherever you are in your life right now, your main responsibility is nurturing. That's what you've been blessed to be. And I was thinking about this and having a discussion with my husband about, wow, I used to be so sweet and kind. That just was me. People would nickname me Sweet Lori, sweet. That was just what they called me. And I thought, I don't know that would be the descriptive word for me, anymore. And we were having this discussion a while ago. And I said, being a mom can take that away from you because you got to be on top of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff you have to do. And you got to take care of phone calls and things and people and doctors and I don't know, whatever, all the stuff you got to take care of. And you've got to become an adult and you've got to become responsible. And you've got to sometimes be a little bit stern and you're taking care of things or serious or whatever. And you become very capable. And you need to do that to run a household and do all these things. And so So you become this person, which I look at my hands. This is how I describe. It's like this tight, closed in, smaller, right? Instead of this person, I like this person better, but I became this person in order to get all the stuff done. I don't know what the answer is. I'm in the middle of trying to figure this thing out, but can you stay soft? Can you stay soft and sweet and kind and still do those things? I think about when queens ride by, and I wonder how many things I did in the beginning where I took on things, responsibilities that I didn't need to. And kind of let go of some of those natural things that Heavenly Father gifted me with. And it was my choice, but maybe, so I'm kind of trying to make some new choices. I'm trying to let go of this Lori, break that away so that I can go back to being sweet Lori, so that's who my family sees. So that's who the people around me see. Because I realize that this person that I am with you is who I am. And I don't always let my family see that person. So thank you for bringing that back to me and helping me remember. So I would encourage you, while you still have them with you, to find you and to share your best self with them and to be your best self with them. It's a little vulnerable and you might get hurt, but it'll be worth it. I promise. So, anybody have anything to share? Sorry, didn't know that was coming.
As you were talking, I just kept thinking of Fred Rogers. And I heard a story somewhere recently. He was in an elevator with a man, and the man was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Mr. Rogers," and was all starstruck and thought, well, he'll probably won't want to talk to me, but he did. He started talking to the man, and then as the elevator opened, the man thought, okay, now he's just gonna like go off and we go our separate ways. But Mr. Rogers got out and he went and he sat somewhere and he said, you seem like you need to talk, and like took all this time to just talk to this man. And we watched a movie with Tom Hanks about Mr. Rogers, and that was what they showed. That was his characters. He would take the time to just talk to people, and just, it didn't really matter what else was going on or where he needed to be, or if a show was getting ready to go or whatever it was, he would just talk to people. And that was number one. And I've just tried to remember that as my kids come in and interrupt, like you're talking about with dinner and stuff, like they're more important. The other stuff will just happen. It will still happen, but just taking the time to listen. So that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Mr. Rogers is my idol. I just love Mr. Rogers. I just think that's sweet that you brought him up. Okay, anybody else?
I have a thought.
Hi, Peggy.
Hi. So in another life, I was training to be a doula, and and that's Evan. Hello, Evan.
Hi.
Hi.
And so I was doing a certification called Birthing from Within, and just love that dynamic of really embracing the primal and the instinctive. And in one of the Evan, wait.
I wanted to be in
you would be in the screen. So in one of the trainings, we were all given a lump of clay, and we were told to make something beautiful with it. And so we were given time and we made our beautiful thing, and we all admired and shared. And then the instructor said, okay, now I want you to destroy this thing. And I want you to do another thing, make something else. And so it was, I'm sorry.
Okay.
There you are.
We can see you, Evan.
Yeah,
it's nice to see your face, Evan.
I know. We're watching with the friends here. We're sharing about our hearts.
I want to watch something.
I know. You're being so patient. Thank you. Well, that just really touched my heart. And adding on what you said, Lori, about being vulnerable. And within the realm of, I understand. Can you read a book? So being vulnerable, but also letting imagination be temporary. Like the things that we're making, the things that we're doing, we're not letting this need to make it permanent. Like imagination is so ethereal and it's kind of gauzy and you can see through it. Like it's not something that you're going to put on your mantle or you're not going to display it, or it's just something that we're moving through, just like the meals we eat or the clothes that we're everywhere, everything we're doing, it's very temporary. And so I just love that exercise because I was committed to this idea that I had made, but then I had to let it go, and releasing a bird, or letting it have its own way, and then just finding peace in where I was then, but then knowing that I'd be different in the next time I did it. And so anyway, I'm really enjoying this month and just trying to really come closer to this place that I'm not in, because I live in a very two-dimensional world with a child in a wheelchair. And so nature isn't accessible. And really long or focused activities, sketching and observation and experiments, like just doing all these things, like it's not easy for us because we have so many challenges.
Wow.
And so imagination is very far away because I have a child who doesn't have a middle brain. And so we remain in the very concrete, very regimented, very scheduled. And so, but it's something I think we can grasp onto more. And so lots of beautiful things to plant and to cultivate this month. So thank you.
Peggy, I love that you shared that. And I love that you shared about your child, because that's not something that we knew about your life and about the things that are part of your, how you have to figure out what to do and how to make well-educated heart work for your family. Because that's what we've talked about, is how it really molds to the family, but you've got different parameters that you've got to work within. And really interesting, very interesting. But this whole concept of, if you are warming your heart, which is really what it all comes down to, if you can have those opportunities, even though they might be much smaller and much shorter, that's going to trickle down to your family, and they're going to feel that. And they're going to see that. And I love that you had that experience with your class. Wow. I think that would be very hard for me to take that thing that I created and destroy it. That would be an emotional experience for me. So I'm sure it was for you too. Yeah.
Right. And to, I guess, to give our hearts that experience of embracing that divine of abundance, of beginning again, like that. There's not lacking, there's not less, there's more. And try, like your hands, right? That tight, it restricts and it complicates. But if we lessen our tight grip, then the flow opens and there's more abundance. And so, but that is truly a trust, like it's a trust exercise with our inner divine to actually be more abundant in our heart.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Definitely a trust exercise. Oh my goodness. I love that you shared that, Peggy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So sweet. Oh, Mom, this is just such a wonderful time. And I know moms are going off because we got to get back to reality. But use your imagination and create a reality that you are happier with, one that you can thrive in rather than just survive in. And we have the power to do that. We've seen examples of that today. Thanks for sharing with me. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing what you're doing every single day.